Hello everyone and welcome to the Train Sim World November 2024 roadmap. Can you hear us? How are we doing tonight? We're joined obviously myself, I'm the Senior Community Manager here at Dovetail Games, and the wonderful, the magnificent Matt Pedleston, our Executive Producer of Trains.
Hello, good evening everybody.
Hello, welcome tonight. So again, let us know, audio levels are always something we want to make sure are a-okay before we start. But also if you are joining us for one of the first few roadmap live streams, if you've come in with Train Sim World 5, this may be maybe your second roadmap, maybe your first live stream. Good to hear we've got equal volume. Tonight we're going to talk about loads of exciting things, some new announcements coming to Train Sim World, some things that we've wanted to talk about for a while, some updates. You demand higher volume. Oh, that's just you, Matt. You're typing in the chat. It's good to know that sounds okay. But yes, we're going to talk about everything Train Sim World here, as well as some new exciting announcements on some projects too. So I hope that sounds good. Are you ready, Matt, to dive into tonight?
I am absolutely looking forward to it. I looked at your plan earlier on, and it looks like we've got some fun stuff to talk about.
We do. Just so you know, my blurred camera didn't work, so if you notice a bunch of plushies in the background, that's just because it was a good substitution. So there we go. So the way I usually like starting these is kind of taking a trip into the past and talking a bit about what happened last month. And really, some of the best things that happened last month was actually a lot of charity-driven live streams. Matt was a fantastic host for a charity live stream for Special Effect. And also we had a D&D stream hosted by a community member, Harry. She was absolutely fantastic, loads of exciting new voices and characters. Myself and Matt were part of that, and that was raising money for Safe in Our World. And then also Rob Powell from our teams did a stream on his own channel, raising money for Calm. And in total, we've managed to raise quite a way over £5,000 for some absolutely incredible causes. So I wanted to just give another shout out and say thank you to everyone here in the chat, everyone that did join us for those events. It's been a really brilliant month of fundraising, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support, everybody. A big shout out to all the, all those who actually hosted the streams. I know Rob did a brilliant job, and Harry just blew me away. Absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed that. I've never done that before, and really loved it.
Well, we got to get our characters back out again. What was yours? Mine was Union Pacifica or Uriel Pacifica.
I can't remember.
I know you had the
I
cat
enjoyed it
ears
so
though.
much, it's gone.
You had the cat ears though, which was the
I had the
most
cat
important thing.
ears. Yeah, I had the cat ears.
But also last month, we had a few game updates. We had one of the first major set of post-release updates coming to Train Sim World 5. Brought a huge range of improvements, mostly for the core routes, but also to get some of the key fixes that we wanted to address since launch, and just keep making sure that we're staying on top of community feedback. And of course, these are going to continue no less. And then we're going to end on today, because it's the release of the MBTA commuter route. Which is right now. It's actually just released on all platforms as of about an hour ago. So I suppose that kind of brings us to the present, really. So if you haven't heard of the MBTA commuter route, we're going to talk about it in a little moment. But feel free to search that up. It's on all platforms available to buy, to download, to give it a go. And we're seeing some initial feedback that seems very positive, but also some feedback that we can look at from our teams as well. So we'll make sure to keep an eye on that. But that brings us to the present, and now let's look at the future with, here we have it, the November 2024 Train Sim World roadmap graphic. Now I'm going to leave this on screen for a few minutes because there have been some changes since the last one, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And don't worry, if some things look really exciting here, we're going to talk about some of the new things that we've added into this throughout the whole night. So we're going to be live for about an hour and a half. But here we go. So some add-ons in our approaching soon section, which is the next few months. Some of them are already there, some of them you would have seen before, but there have been a couple of new additions. The first I'll talk about is some Train Sim World 5 gameplay add-on bundles, some add-ons that are coming that you can pick up as part of a bundle, and they will add more gameplay to some of Train Sim World 5's core routes. West Coast Main Line South, you've got Frankfurt Fulda, you've got San Bernardino Line. We're not quite ready to talk about what that gameplay will entail, and that has something a little to do with another piece of information on this roadmap graphic, but we'll be sharing that in due course. And another thing that may have been exciting a lot of you in the Discord and the forums earlier has been a brand new announcement from the TSG team. This is the Mittenwaldbahn route. And I know a lot of you have been really excited about the 1020 Crocodile Loco that we also announced in that. But again, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. So the big thing that actually, I'll mention in the further down the tracks, we also have a new add-on coming. It's just a UK route that we haven't announced more information on, but from a new partner in Train Sim World called Incredible Trains. It's actually a solo developer as well. So on our roadmap, we've got an interview with Johannes Hartmann, who is the sole developer at Incredible Trains, and learning more about who they are and why they wanted to make some content for Train Sim World and join our wonderful third-party family. But something really exciting and something that explains why we won't have another roadmap now for the rest of the year is because December will be a full month of exciting announcements and reveals. We're kind of summarizing it in what we've deemed the season of reveals 2024. And the little tagline there says it's a range of new announcements and project updates coming across December. And I really want to start today and talk a little bit about this because this will be a really exciting event. And oh no, where's Matt gone? I've gone to my solo cam. He's back. So I know some people have been sharing that they're really excited. So I've got a little bit of notes, but it's going to be a really exciting period. Essentially, if you look on a calendar, if you open up, if you're watching on your phone, if you're watching on a computer, you can open up like a calendar app. And if you look at December, you've basically got 3 weeks there where we're going to be working with the Dovetail offices. But you've got from the 2nd until I believe it's the 6th of December, you've got the, I think 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th until the 13th, and then the 16th until the 20th. So you've got kind of 3 weeks there with 5 days on each week. And every single one of those days, we're going to be either announcing something completely brand new for Train Sim World or some of our other titles, or talking more about already announced projects, but giving more details that you've maybe not seen before. And so every day will feel like it's something new, something exciting. And even if there's an announcement on day one, you're like, oh, that's fun, but maybe it's not quite for me. There's always something coming the next day. And the best part about it all is that there's a really fun special surprise at the end that I can't tell you more about yet, but it's coming up in just a few weeks, and I think it'll be really exciting for those of you, especially for Train Sim World. But I can't say any more. There's no leaks on tonight as much as I want to. But December's going to be full of celebration, and it'll be a brilliant way to kind of wrap up the year, talk about projects as well. If you liked our take a ticket style teasers that we did in our Dovetail Direct recently, it's kind of a similar style to that, like snippets of information. You'll be joined by members of the Dovetail team, and again, it should be really fun. And a lot of you that have been asking questions about, will we hear more about X route, and will we hear more about certain remasters? I know GW remaster has been mentioned, and some people want more information, say the Dutch route or the Cardiff route that we've previously talked about. Expect more project updates from across our third-party ranges, and again, we'll reveal more about when they come up later down the line. And also on top of that, we're going to be doing some giveaways as well. So you can win some keys, loads of new announcements, keys to win. It's just going to be a brilliant month full of fun and lots of news for Train Sim World. So hope you're excited, but I thought I'd start with that because it's always brilliant to open up with the best stuff, in my opinion, at least. But another thing I want to mention while we're also starting off is the free starter pack. That's right. I know a lot of you have already had a chance to jump into Train Sim World, but if you haven't, don't forget, the free starter pack is still available. It's been extended now until the early 2025. And when we say early 2025, we really mean early. Expect this to currently extend pretty much until the tick of the new year. So, if any of your friends want to give Train Sim World 5 a go, feel free to do so. You can download it for free. You can jump into Training Center. You can try out some of the locos. You can try out some of the new features. And you can get it. You can kind of get yourself right into the action, really. So, just a reminder, free starter pack is there for anyone that hasn't had a chance to give Train Sim World 5 a go. And even if Train Sim World 5, some of the core routes maybe don't appeal to you, you can pick up the free starter pack, then buy any of the future add-ons that we release, and then continue your journey as if you own the core edition, like the MBTA Commuter that released today. But let's talk more about some of the fun stuff. And actually, we want to start with MBTA Commuter because, as we talked about, it's released today, and I've got some images here. From that, although these seem to be some of my older images. No, I thought I added the new ones in. Hold up, let's see if I can get some of them in. Matt, fill the air.
These are purple trains, and they're lovely, and they're officially purple, by the way, so please call them purple. Yeah, no, I'm really happy that the MBTA route has gone out. We delayed it to get the quality level up, and really pleased with where it's ended up. It's if you haven't seen the MBTA the route, you need to watch the preview. Shame on you. You go and watch the preview not right this second after this stream. But the MBTA route is it starts in Boston South Station, same route station as Boston Providence did, but then it heads pretty much immediately west instead of going sort of a southwest direction that the other one did, and what's really fascinating about this route is that you get, because it's got the new HSB46 locomotive and it's got the newer double-decker cars, where Providence had the older F40 and the single-deck cars, this also has those as well. So you get this really interesting mix of single-deck and double-deck cars in the same train, which is fascinating. And it's just pretty much how they works now. They don't go out of their way to make particular single types of train. They just, it's whatever coaches are available and have meet the capacity requirements really. But what's really fascinating is that there's a section of the route, in fact sometimes even large chunks of the route, where they switch what track you run on. So traditionally in the States you'd run right track, you'd be on the right hand side, and that'd be how it goes. But in certain times they switch you over to the left, and sometimes you only switched over to the left for a few stations, sometimes for almost the entire route, depending on what's going on the time of day. So it kind of feels like every station, every service in service mode has got a slightly different feel to it and different pace to it. So there's some really interesting stuff there. So yeah, no, I really enjoy driving this route, and certainly people I've been speaking to that have been testing the route have been just telling me how much they really enjoy the HSB46.
I mean, it looks really exciting. Some of the screenshots we've been seeing from people already have been really fun. Again, these are purple trains. They are officially purple. But like we said, if you've picked it up, if you're enjoying it, we do have feedback threads that we would love to hear your opinions of the route. And if you've spotted anything that you don't think is quite right, you can also let our teams know, and we can look to add it in a future update as well. So what I'll do is I'll link that in the YouTube description, which you can find just there. It's on our Dovetail forums as well. So if you want to head over to that, it's a way for you to talk directly to our teams and share any feedback, good or anything you spotted that might be a little bit different or unexpected as well. So Also, I think some people have pointed out the mastery. There is currently only one tier of mastery, so that there isn't a second tier that is locked at all. There is only one tier of mastery currently, so just in case there was any questions on that. But that is the MBTA Commuter. So as we mentioned, it released earlier tonight. So feel free to check that out on the Steam store pages or on the Xbox, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, X, PS4, and PS5, or Epic Games. Brilliant. In that case, we also have a new announcement as well from the from our teams for TSW5 Gameplay Add-ons. So I mentioned a little bit before about some extra content coming to core routes. And this will be for, again, this is for the West Coast Main Line South route, Frankfurt Fulda and the San Bernardino line included in Train Sim World 5 Core. And these, it's important to note that these are only available on PC and Gen 9 platforms. So these will bring more services, more scenarios for those kind of platforms. But they will also come alongside further improvements and core updates for everyone, regardless of your platforms. That will be for Gen 8 platforms as well. In terms of what these will actually entail, though, we haven't revealed that yet. And as we talked a little bit about our Season of Reveals event, you will find out more about what's included within these add-on bundles as we get to early December. So stay tuned for more, but there are new little packs you can pick up, which should really just bolster on and add more gameplay for some of the core routes in Train Sim World 5 as well. In that case, Matt, is there anything you want to add on some of the gameplay packs coming?
I mean, the gameplay packs are always an interesting addition. They've actually been really popular in previous, and that's why we wanted to do them again this time around. Because you know, you've got favorite routes in particular in the core, and it adds more stuff to it, you know. And we'll go into more detail about what that stuff is and what the gameplay is nearer the time. But no, it's a really interesting additions, and yeah, they'll just add more to your favorite routes. So yeah, actually, I'm looking forward to them.
Brilliant. And now we're going to move over to a brand new announcement in this roadmap. So, you know, we didn't save everything for some of the December reveals. The TSG team wanted to come forward and talk about their new route, Mittenwaldbahn. This is Innsbruck to Garmisch to Partenkirchen. I think I've said that hopefully correct enough. But yes, a new Mittenwaldbahn route coming from the TSG team. And I do have some images to show you. There's only a few of these. And they are work in progress, so please do keep that in mind. But
it's just beautiful, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
Lucas shared these with me a while back, and it's like, wow, that's the photo. Where's the game? What does the game look like?
I mean, just this shot right on the edge of the pass there. It's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area, and it's really interesting to see.
And it makes me so excited for photo mode. You know, I just can't wait to see, because you can now play with stuff like field, like depth of view, you know, where you want to focus, whether you want to blur the background or whether you want to bring the background into focus and blur the foreground. To me, photo mode is just incredible. And just seeing some of these screenshots from Lucas, I don't know if these were taken by Lucas directly, but these three images, they were taken very, very well. Now, for those of you who don't necessarily know much about Mittenwaldbahn, what you can expect is heading back to Austria. So we came to Austria before. What was it wasn't Semmeringbahn, which was Austrian.
Semmeringbahn and Vorarlberg.
It was Vorarlberg, that's it. We're heading back to Austria. So that should be exciting. There is a border crossing between Austria and Germany in this route. And you will discover the Mittenwald Pass, which is a cross-border mountainous adventure. And the tagline is, it will leave you breathless. Well, I mean, I think to some degree that is quite literal because you're high up in the mountains, but it just looks absolutely stunning. And again, we did announce, there are no images of this, but we did announce this will be coming with the UBB 1020 Crocodile locomotive. And the route is set in 1989. So a little bit of a rewind to the past. It looks exciting. There is more news we want to show you, but that will be deferred to our Season of Reveals. So we'll talk a little bit about more of what's included within the route and what you can expect, as well as more screenshots and gameplay as well. So this is really exciting. I know when we shared this, there was a lot of eyes open in the Discord communities, especially around this announcement.
And yeah, it's really interesting, and the choice of loco and so forth it's just stand out different compared to anything that's gone before. Not only is it an interesting line to drive with beautiful visuals, but it's a really interesting old school loco to drive. So, and then there's more besides that. So yeah, more to talk about nearer the time. But yeah, this is really interesting project. One to be excited for.
Yes.
Not all things to be excited for, but you know what I mean.
Well, actually, speaking of something else to get excited for, we're now moving over to what I think is, for some of our UK fans, especially, one of the next things they're really excited for is the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route from Just Trains. Now, we've been talking about this for a little while. We've been sharing more and more images, and of course, the Just Trains have their development blog with more details and updates as well. But today we've got a range of new screenshots that I think we've not shared before, and also loads of details on the services and the breakdowns of some of the services you can expect for some of the different locos included in the route, and some of this information which we've not yet had a chance to talk about, shared from the Just Trains team.
I swear, every time I see new screenshots of this route, I am blown away a bit more than I was the last time I saw screenshots of this route. And bear in mind that the team share screenshots on our internal Discord quite regularly. That's just they've upped the game so much, and this route just is such a fun route to drive with great loco. And these screenshots speak for themselves. They are so good.
If you haven't heard about this route yet, somehow, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but you're going to be departing from the city of Preston. You're going to be driving through detailed, immersive scenery through Penrith to Carlisle, and it's over 100 miles long. And again, we've mentioned this before, but this would make it the longest TSW UK route, which will be fantastic. And what we've announced today is that there are 300 plus services in total. There are 100 plus services for the class 87-2. There are 50 plus services for the class 101, 50 plus for the class 47, and also 25 plus services for the class 08. But one thing we did include when we shared some of these numbers earlier is worth noting that not everything is necessarily just depicted as well by just saying a number. There's always more to it than just a number. And I think when we talked about this, a lot of the shunting moves in themselves kind of lead into just service modes as well. So they're not always a great depiction of the experience that you will get, but still 300 plus services, and also you'll get additional services and rail tours for a whole range of other layered in content, such as the LMS Jubilee from Spirit's Theme or the Flying Scotsman. You'll get a rail tour from the Class 20, the Class 31, and the Class 40 from the BR Heavy Freight Pack. You'll also get the Class 37 from the Tees Valley line. As well as freight services, we use the HEA, PCA, CCAL, PGA, TEA, the goods vans, and the mineral wagons as well. There's a huge range of details. We've got, if you head over to our roadmap article itself, which is linked in the YouTube description of this live stream, you should be able to dive into almost a couple pages worth of service details there from the Just Trains team. And also you'll find a list of all the required add-ons you need to make the most out of this line coming. But it's worth mentioning that earlier in the roadmap, we did also announce a slight delay. Previously, we announced this would be coming out on the 21st of November, but just to give the Just Trains team and some of our internal QA teams a little bit more time to review some of the issues and polish up the route, then we've decided to push it back a few days. So it's not as long as a week, so it shouldn't be too long. And we're going to continue with the preview stream that we had planned for the 14th, which is in 2 days. With guests from Just Trains, Tom and Benedict. We appreciate your patience while waiting for this release. We know so many of you are really excited. We just want to make sure it's in the best possible condition to enjoy from release, from day one, and you can dive right in and get the most out of it. Oh, and I forgot, how could I forget? There was a teaser image. I don't think I've got it in my, I don't think I loaded it up on my OBS. But feel free, go into the roadmap article. I'll read the little description that Just Trains decided to leave, because I think I've seen a few raised eyebrows about this. But go into the roadmap article. You'll find a work in progress grayscale model, and I won't give you any more information than that. But the Just Trains team decided to leave you with a little bit of a teaser that says, "No need to pant with excitement. In the top 10, this DLC will hit that perfect beat, especially for those with suspicious minds, as it's kind of a magic." So I wonder what that could mean. But I'm not going to give you any more. It's potentially teasing another product they may be working on, but I'll leave you with that. Anything else, Matt, you want to talk about with West Coast Main Line?
I've said all that. I've used up all the words. I think just super hyped and looking forward to the preview stream on Thursday.
I mean, I think we all are really at this point. We just want to get to
Oh
see
yeah,
it.
oh yeah.
And now I'll go over to another route that we've been following for a little bit of time now, and this is the first route for TSW from the Alan Thompson sim. This is Manchester Airport Commuter. And some of the screenshots we've shared before, but today we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the experience you'll be able to get with the route. And we've shared some of the stations and things you'll be able to see along the line. But also with this release, you'll be able to get an improved Manchester Piccadilly station. And across the line, you'll find multiple model depots along the route. And there'll be 2 branches of busy commuter traffic to get stuck into. So I know there's some of that detail feels a little cut short, but that is because we're saving some of the effect for our December reveals. So you'll find out more then. You'll find out some more screenshots as well. But we did want to bring back to Manchester Airport Commuter because some of these screenshots look absolutely stunning. They make use of some new airplane models that are in Train Sim World 5 as well. And it should be a really exciting kind of busy commuter route in and out the heart of Manchester. Okay, and now we've got an update from Rivet Games. This is for the Levenmouth branch. So I'll move over to some of these images. Now these images are new. I think how many have we got here? We've got about 27 images to cycle through.
Looking forward to this one. This one looks good.
Well, some of these are, there's Loki the dog as we go past. Have to point that out. This is actually a dog you can find at the Leven station. So for those of you that don't know, this is it's actually a free update for owners of the Fife Circle Line route. And it's coming before the end of the year. We haven't confirmed a release date just yet, but we know that we want to get this in ahead of the holidays. We're working really closely with the Rivet Games team that developed the Fife Circle Line route and who are working on this free update, which will bring in the Levenmouth branch. So again, for those of you that haven't heard about this update, there's a 5.5 mile route extension for the Levenmouth Railway with 40 new timetable services on this branch, 2 new stations to discover, as well as 16 additional collectibles. And of course, you'll be able to play with the new conductor mode across these new timetable services as well. But there's just so much to show about it. There's so many details across the route. There's even like a little train model there, like Caterpillar collectible in that screenshot as we pass. And of course, we talked about the famous ScotRail dog Loki at the Leven station. But I think it's just a fantastic extension. And again, it's a free update that for players who have the Fife Circle Line route will really add that next that extra level of gameplay and layer of gameplay that they can enjoy. And it is also worth noting that when this comes out, the Fife Circle Line will have its name, its route name, official title slightly amended just to reflect that this is now included in the update because it will just be a free enhancement to this route. Yeah, I'm really excited to see this one. I'm really excited because I know a lot of people have been waiting for some time to be able to get their hands on this new branch. And the reason the Rivet Games team wanted to add it is because when they were developing the Fife Circle Line itself, the Levenmouth branch wasn't actually open in real life. So they couldn't actually get there to take any reference images. So they released the Fife Circle Line and decided to get straight into it the moment it was ready to have their teams go in, take some photos, take some reference images and get developing on it. Anything else, Matt, from your side?
I mean, I always enjoy playing Fife Circle, so I'm looking forward to having more to do. And of course, this being a branch line means that it sort of starts to get a little bit more of a networky type feel as well. So you'll have different places to go, different ways to go. And I guess this adds an awful lot. It might only be a 5 mile branch line, but it actually adds quite a lot of gameplay. So no, I'm really looking forward to getting this one out.
And just a note, because we've been talking about Leven in kind of the same context as Skyhook Games' own development for the ScotRail Class 158, the new Rail Link livery. Just to mention that these two are not linked, that the Rail Link livery won't be coming out alongside Leven. That will come at a future date. So we're still, again, we haven't confirmed the release date of the Leven branch just yet, but just to mention that they will be separate updates. But as a final wrap up for some of our third-party updates this month, we wanted to introduce a brand new developer to our TSW program. and this is Incredible Trains. And this is actually a solo developer run by Johannes Hartmann. We've been in contact with Johannes to talk about their routes, which we're not going to announce in this stream. That may be something we learn more about in December with the season of reveals. We learned more about Johannes, what got them motivated, what got them started, and it's really interesting because there's a full interview on our roadmap, our roadmap article that you can dive into. You can see it's really wonderful actually to hear a little bit of insight into what it was like learning the tools. But I think the best thing about Johannes' story is how they experimented with the PC editor, which we've been talking about for some time, that came with TrainSimul 4, and we've obviously worked to improve with TrainSimul 5. And they had some experience with 3D modeling in the past, but they ended up teaching themselves new skills, learning the route, and obviously they've got a massive passion for trains, for the railway, well, we can't wait to show you what they have been working on, but we can't reveal that today. But what I would say is, if this is interesting, check out the interview because it's fantastic, and it's always brilliant to welcome more people into the TrainSimWorld partner ecosystem, so that we can get more routes and more a diverse portfolio of routes to you. Where, as you know, in the last few months we've been announcing more and more countries coming to TrainSimWorld, and part of that is because of these third-party partners coming to us and being able to make the best experiences.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing, the work Johannes is doing come to fruition. He's incredibly talented, and just taking on all of this work, because as a single developer is something pretty special actually. So, and when you start seeing what he's been doing, I think you will agree he's knocked it out of the park.
And now I want to move to something really exciting for the West Coast Main Line, and this is West Coast Main Line South, the one that came with TrainSimWorld 5, not the Just Trains one we talked about. This is about the improvements that we've been working on, and I've got some more images here. And in the roadmap, we shared a lot of details that I'm going to talk about in a moment, because we can confirm that we have been working on these. As you know, when we launched TrainSimWorld 5, we set in place a range of commitments to want to improve the West Coast Main Line based on a lot of community feedback we received, because we wanted it to be that experience that you all had in mind, that you all dreamed of this route. And I think there was many people in the community that felt that there was more that we could do, and we agreed that there is more. And so since then, we've been working really hard to put those changes to place. And some of the things that you can see on screen are reflective of those changes. But really, what we've got here is a large overhaul incoming that we want to share with you all in early December. And this was not done alone. There was a lot of hard work put into this overhaul and this set of improvements. But really, we want to shout out some key community members that helped us bring this to life as well. And this is Forks, and this is V. I think it's Matt. Am I pronouncing it right? If it's
Vion. So we've been working with we've been working a lot with Forks, and Forks and others. Actually, we brought with some of the feedback that came through from the community. I brought a bunch of people onto the beta team to provide sort of more direct feedback. And Liam, who you'll know from the wonderful remaster master, has been working on this and has actually done a lot of work on scenery improvements and optimizations. He's done a lot of work improving the timetable, and then also talking with Forks and others about their experiences with the timetable, their experiences with potential signaling issues, or track powering issues, or all sorts of things, and station directories for PIS. And so Liam has been working with himself, obviously, but with also calling on other members of the team as needed to get those issues resolved as well. So this as well as quite a substantial new timetable, which Forks has also helped us out with. There's also, say, scenery updates and fixes which will help other things work as well. One of the key fixes actually in the Cortec is that the Pendos will now do 125 miles per hour, which is good to see. So we just recently got that fix in the development branch. So a lot of fixes for this route incoming, and I know that the Discord beta buzzing with excitement actually, because literally I think in the last couple of days the first builds of this went up. And everyone's been really happy with it. So there's a little bit more work to do on it, and obviously all the testing and so forth to be done. But yeah, really good. Big shout out to Liam and the team who have been working on this, and also to Forks, Vion, and the other testers and other contributors that have helped with getting it to where it is.
I mean, if you're excited about that, what we can announce and some of this information you can view in our roadmap article is that this will include 800 new timetable services. It will have additional rail tours. It will have a rework to freight gameplay with new layers. It will have a range of scenery improvements, as Matt mentioned, but this will include stuff like nighttime lighting, terrain and texture, color and water texture updates. It will add the 710 stop markers, and there's just generally route-wide improvements, fixes, tweaks, just to make that all come together. And Matt mentioned the class 390 125 mile an hour speed improvement, but it also will be the class 350 improved suspension alongside this update as well.
Not only the 350 suspension, but the physics of the 350 have been pretty much reworked from scratch as well. In fact, a large amount of the innards of the 350 have been redone. So there's just a lot of work, say, from a large amount of varied parts of the team have been working on this. So well, it says, if there's any questions you've got, people are putting questions in the chat, put them in the forums at me, and I'll see if I can get you answers for them if they're not already in the roadmap article. I know the roadmap article, go read it please, has lots and lots of useful information in there that we aren't covering 100% here, because just go read it basically. There's lots of stuff to see, but no, do ask your questions. But yeah, like I said, we're working closely with the community, with members such as Vion and Forks and others, to try and make this the update everyone wants it to be. I believe, and I'll double check, that this timetable will still only be Gen 9 timetable. I don't recall what's going on for Gen 8. The memory constraints of the route running on a Gen 8 console haven't changed. But I do know that he has also been looking at some memory optimization and performance optimization, he being Liam in this case, who's been looking at that. Ludwig tells the 390, I believe, is already facing the right way. We already put that update out, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a story to tell, is that there have been improvements we've been getting out gradually with more of our post-release smaller updates, where we've been shipping the odd fix here and there, the odd crash fix, the odd scenery improvement. But this is really that overhaul. And I think
this is the big update we've been working on. Yeah.
And I think, as Matt was saying, we're extremely grateful for the community feedback to come in, and ultimately we want to deliver that ultimate experience, that best experience for what the West Coast Mainline South route can be. But we want to say thank you all for waiting patiently, and thank you for working with us on this, and we just can't wait to deliver this to you. So early December, again, we'll try and get a release date when we're confident, when we know when that's going to slot into the builds, because sometimes that can have to balance around other things as well. So we'll let you know a little bit closer to the time, but hopefully this time next month you'll be enjoying those 800 new services, the new suspension, the new speeds of the 390, and all the new scenery improvements, as well as much more too. So that's it on West Coast Mainline improvements. There is a quick mention that some of the patches we've had so far in this month, again, if you've potentially been away for a little bit, we've had a few sets of improvements. We had our first major patch, TSW5, on October 15th, so about maybe about a month ago now. Range of improvements are just across core content. There's no point listing it, there was so many. But on October 28th, so maybe a couple weeks ago, we had some crash fixes. I know PS4 crashing when using fast travel was one of the big ones there, as well as just, again, various core improvements. And then November 7th, about a week or two ago, we had a few small updates to UI, localization as well, and general other fixes to help prepare for the release of MBTA Commuter today. So if you haven't played in a little while, there have been some patches. We are consistently looking at community feedback and working these into more fixes. And I believe we've got another patch coming out soon, because I've been working with our team to try and get those notes together for you. So we'll keep delivering patches as much as we can, and that will kind of go hand in hand with some of the West Coast Mainline bits you'll get at the start of December as well. Something else along that line, though, is we want to talk a little bit about performance. And again, the topic of performance has been one that we've continued since the launch of TSW5. And this includes crashing, and this includes lower resolution textures on consoles, because a lot of this is tied to memory usage. And our teams have been trying to work on optimizations to try and help these memory improvements over some of our previous patches. We're looking really closely at stuff like FPS averages at different stations along the routes, and this is the core routes in Train Sim World 5. And also just generally Train Sim World 5 as a whole picture, especially when we look at crashing volumes for different platforms. This is something that we want to really candidly talk about. It's a difficult conversation. I think, Matt, I'll hand over to you in a minute to kind of open up a little bit wider from a more technical perspective. But it's something that we want to deliver. The general look at performance is always on our minds. If we can make the game run smoother for everyone, then brilliant. But it's also not something that we've quite got right yet. And I think we wanted to be at a better point with some of the performance, especially some of the crashing levels, by this point after the release of Train Sim World 5. And we're not able to deliver these kind of improvements. And we announced a little bit in our roadmap that we're not going to be able to get this on this side of the holidays. There are more improvements we want to make, and we're still looking at, again, like we talk about FPS averages at different stations, looking at when we load certain when we stress test our systems around the map, do we run into crashes? Do we run out of memory? Is there assets on the route that are eating up too much memory that we can optimize? We've been looking at this, and we're still continuing to look at this, but we wanted to mention and just speak candidly about that. This development doesn't just happen overnight. It's not just an instant thing. There isn't a magical wizard that says, here's all the things to fix and I fix them for you. It's a longer process than that. And I think, Matt, I'll let you detail a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a number of different things. We've had our engineering team doing a series of profiling, and we have found some memory leaks with the 2D map. So every time you called up the 2D map, you lost a bit of memory. And that would have contributed to the things like the whether it be crashes or whether it be reduced levels of texture detail, for example. So we've got a fix for that coming. And there's been some other stuff in there that's been gently chewing away memory, and so we've got some stuff coming to try and improve that. But we haven't finished. We're still working on these things. Unfortunately, there's no clear. It's just, as someone who hasn't done development myself in a long time, and certainly not done anything in Unreal. I come at this thinking, surely asking the question, what's in memory at the moment, should be an easy thing to say, but it turns out actually, because of the way that memory is managed dynamically in these systems, it's actually quite a difficult thing to say or to answer. So that's what the team are wrestling with, is trying to work out, what's actually the root cause of these things. And some of it's like Liam, who's been working on the West Coast mainline route, finding some things which causing from frame rate issues. He found a number of extra lights that shouldn't be there, and those will chew up frame rate. So there's things like that, and then you've got other problems such as Frankfurt on Gen 8 consoles, and there's not really anything inefficient about Frankfurt. It's just too big for Gen 8 consoles, and one of the lessons we're learning is, well, for Gen 8 consoles, we might just have to not make a route like a Frankfurt route, or if we do, then it doesn't fit on a Gen 8 console. So it's kind of a challenge, and there's some learning lessons, there's some improvements that need to go through that we need to finish making. But as we make the bigger, more complex routes, and Frankfurt is probably the most complex route we've made to date. You just have to see, just work out, how that sits in the big scheme of things. I said Polish, not Polish, just to be clear. So yeah, there's a whole spectrum of things going on. It's across the team, looking at all sorts of different things. We're by no means finished, and we'll see. Someone's asking what causes blurry textures. So basically, Unreal has this dynamic system for the way textures are loaded into memory. There is an amount of memory allocated for video memory, and I don't think that's related to your video card memory. So this is just something that's an Unreal thing. Yeah, as an amount of memory. Basically, what happens is once you start hitting that limit, then it starts deresing textures so that it can still all fit in there. and that's where you start getting things blurry. It's because just trying to do too much in that. So it's that's what causes that. Some people are saying that yeah, you can help the situation by turning off layers. You can, because then there's less things being loaded, less things filling up that texture memory. That is certainly one of the avenues you can use to try and improve things in the visual side of things. Just look at that. So that's where that's where we are at the moment. There's work going on in there. I don't have a, this is the ultimate solution that's going to happen. It's going to be a series of fixes across a bunch of different things with a bunch of different types of fixes.
Thank you for the detail on that. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of discussion in the chat about how this impacts various different routes, or how this impacts different issues. But generally, our teams are looking at this. If you want to share feedback on lower performance, or if you're having a struggle with anything, remember that we always have our Dovetail support. We have our forums. These are areas that we consistently look at as a team, especially us in community. We're constantly looking at our forums. We're constantly looking at our Facebook groups, our Reddits, our Discords, and also we're checking in with our support team as well. So we're here to help, but also, as we talk about, there are some things with memory that aren't easily fixed. But we're working hard on it. We're consistently working hard on it. And again, it's another one of those things that we're very grateful for your patience. I know a lot of people, they were having a lot of problems with crashing, and we've been able to fix some issues. There's just more we want to do. There's always more we want to improve. But we're going to keep looking at it in the new year. So something I want to move on to next, which was mentioned in the chat by Amazed Taze, and don't worry, we were going to talk about this because this is really interesting, and this is to do with community modding. If you're a fan of getting involved with the community modding scene, or installing community content, we also want to support that. And I say we, this is also done by some of the hard work of the team. I believe Will K was the one that worked on some of these optimizations. Is that right, Matt?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so hats off to Will K. But we got some good news. In fact, so this isn't released as of today. It isn't in a patch currently just yet, but it is coming soon. And essentially, what Will K has been able to work on is an optimization to the loading times needed when booting the game with several mods installed. So I'm reading some of the information that's already in our roadmap article. But this primarily affects modded content that doesn't contain asset registry files. So if you understand where that's coming from, then that's great. If you're someone like me that's just reading a little bit off a script and is just like, yes, I'm sure everyone knows what this means. Essentially, if you've got, say, 50 mods installed, what we've found is a couple examples where that loading time may have taken 5, 6, 7 minutes. It now will take 1 minute, a single minute, 60 seconds. And again, this may not be perfect for every mod, but you're seeing just general performance, general boost, general faster loading of the game, which should just be a really nice quality of life improvement for people that do love getting involved. Maybe some of the hardcore players, or the people that just want to just add in a little bit of God mode here and there, maybe some timetable improvements made by a community member. And I think that's really wonderful because, we've always talked about wanting to support the community. And I think we've started that conversation quite loudly with the PC editor and wanting to grow the editor scene. But this feels like a really big win for the people that want to just dive in and create community made content and take Train Sim World where they want to take it, whether that's more timetable services or what. Alongside this update, we'll also add a couple things, and again, I'm just reading off the list because my own knowledge of this is fairly minimal. But the add-on manager will now fully support scenery overlay mods with dependencies, and also we've added mod support for the Microsoft Store and Game Pass version of the game, along with the ability to use the public editor with that version as well. So that's a really big win as well if you're a user on Game Pass or Microsoft Store. Again, my technical know-how is very low. I don't know, Matt, if there's more that's probably better explained by your own tongue.
No, I think if you were in the modding community, you probably understood exactly what Alex was talking about, and if you didn't, don't worry about it. It's basically with those changes, things get better. Depending on what you're doing, it might get a lot better, it might get a little bit better. But these are good changes. Will has been working really hard. He is, along with myself, a huge advocate for the modding communities. Will is also working on a series of tools. We were talking about how sort of the next steps for the public editors this week. So there's lots to there's lots of good stuff, both coming soon and coming later as well. So
I've just seen a question that I'll just answer as I've seen it, because it's an interesting one that we've seen pop up a little bit, but it's from Sam Power, so I appreciate you asking. Is do Focus, and this is Focus Entertainment or Pull Up Entertainment, as they also go by now. Is do they have a say in the routes that we choose to develop and the budgets that we choose to set for those routes and that kind of thing? And I think that's a very easy answer, and it's pretty much no. A lot of that is I'm pretty sure all of that is determined by us. How we choose the route. We have a process. We've talked about the wonderful lamp oil process in the past, but that is entirely run by our teams. Pull Up on More there is like an advisory to just general business things that happen. I think that's probably a good way of showing my own naivety about the subject, but generally speaking, like the routes are still, Dovetail still decide what routes we want to make, but also that's from a very first party perspective, right? We have a full third party partner team and a group of third parties that also come up with their own ideas and come up with their own routes that they want to develop as well. So they can pitch their proposals to us, and we can kind of suggest ways that they can take those proposals or guide them as well. Don't know if there's anything you want to quickly add on that, Matt.
Not on that particular topic, but while we're on the topic of modding and so forth, there was one of the questions I get asked regularly is about the API for external devices and for external software, and which we didn't mention in the roadmap. I should have probably given you an update, Alex, for that to harass me next time for an update. But it's progressing forward in terms of testing and so forth. I brought another community member on board who is making stuff that would benefit from such an API. I'll leave it there for the time being, and he's having a great time with it. So I'm ever more confident we should be able to get this towards a releasable version at some point. So watch this space. But it is progressing nicely.
Right, and for those few of you, I'm not going to call you out saying this is getting a bit boring. I know some modding things go over, they're not for everyone, and for those on console, modding is also maybe not even a possibility. But for those that are involved in modding, this is a big quality of life update, so we wanted to spend some time talking about it. But for our roadmap, we're almost there. We've got some, we're going to do some Q&A at the end. I did want to mention a couple of things. So I want to touch on Train Sim World Tycoon. I know it's not Train Sim World related for Train Sim World 5 specifically, but of course, if you've not heard of our Roblox game as well, this is recently launched. And what I will say is it's whether it's something you want to dive into or whether it's something you just want to be aware of and it's maybe not your thing. We did launch on the Roblox platform a couple weeks ago, and we've already had over 1 million visits, which is insane. I remember looking at it the first day it released, and we were like, okay, maybe a few thousand visits. Let's see how this goes over the weekend. And suddenly we came back to almost 600,000 people who had visited the game. So that's crazy. We've had like over 5,000 positive ratings, and we know it's kind of just the first version of the game, and we've still got way more plans that we want to take it and more updates coming up as well. But for those that have tried out TSW Tycoon, we've got a website, we've got a Dovetail Games Roblox group, so I thought I'd give it a quick shout out because it's had a really positive start, and we look forward to taking it further as well. And what I will say is, before we dive into some Q&A, I know there were a little bit of things in this roadmap which were kind of maybe a bit smaller of an update, and it's because we've got loads of cool things coming up in December. I actually made, the question is, did I put it in my scene? No, I'm gonna add it now. I actually made like a quick reference image for what you can expect coming up in December. Here we go. Here's the placeholder. There we go. Isn't this brilliant? We love this part where I get the paint tool out.
Here we go.
Here we go. So
hold on to your seats, folks.
We love the paint tool part. So again, we've got all of December is gonna be fun. Right, we've got reveals coming every day. So this is a really terrible thing that I drew in 2 seconds while just starting the stream up.
No.
Every one of these boxes is kind of like, if you start in the top left at December 2nd, then December 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then start the new week. Every day we'll have something new. It's 15 boxes, but there's a big one at the end. What could that be? It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a really exciting period. I know our head of creative at the moment, Vic, is making this basically this asset, but actually look really good. So there'll be more coming in December, and December is really not that far away. We've got West Coast Mainline preview coming up in a couple of days. We've got the release of that coming towards the end of the month. we've got Fife Circle Line coming at some point before the end of the year, and then suddenly it's December, and suddenly there's all these reveals coming out, and giveaways and new announcements. It'll be really exciting. So just hold on, we're almost there. But as a reminder, this will be the last roadmap stream for the year, but we will be back, so we'll see you then. But for tonight, we're going to end on a little bit of Q&A. We have got some questions that we already sent in, but for those of you in the chat as well, once we go through these, we'll keep an eye out and we'll add any into the chat and we'll answer away. So the first one I want to quickly mention is for those of you talking about the GWE remaster. When we talked a little bit before about some of the West Coast mainline improvements, a lot of this is being, we had some support from the community as well. We talked about Forks and Vion, but also some of this work was being developed by Liam as well, the master of remasters in some sense. But because of the focus on West Coast mainline improvements, he's taken a little bit of time away from the GWE remaster, which is still continuing, still in development. But that's why there's not been as much news shared, because we've just shared all the really exciting news, the 800 new timetable services, the new scenery improvements for the West Coast mainline as well. So once we've been able to ship that to you, hopefully early December, then we'll get back to kind of sharing more news as the GWE remaster development continues. But for those of you that are interested, that's where that went. Lots of people have been asking for hints for the December reveals. No, it's only a few weeks away. You can wait, I promise. It'll be really good.
You want hints for the hints? Let's announce the announce for the hints for the hints of the hints.
We're good at that. We're good at that at Toptail. Matt, there was a really big question about shader compilation, and I think it's probably best if you take this one.
Yeah, this is really complex topic. So if you're allergic to complex topics, then I'm going to have to advise you to just cover your ears just for a minute. Because this is really difficult stuff. My head kind of exploded a little bit talking to one of our engineers when I said, so this forum post, and he said, yes, we talked about this a year ago, Matthew. Okay, remind me what you said. So, and what I've done is I've translated it into MatSpeak because I need it to be in MatSpeak. It's been such a long time since I was an engineer. I need it dumbed down now. So first off, this is a thing called, so the problem that people are referring to is hitching, where you get hitches. And this is a kind of a, other than you've got the shader compilations, but then you also get hitches during the game as well. So the problem is the shader compilation ones. The comment, the post on the forum was referring to something called PSOs. Pipeline shared objects or something. I can't remember what it stands for at this point. I probably should have written that down. And the idea is that there is a technique in UE5 using PSOs where you can effectively pre-cache all of this stuff at build time. And then when you run the game, you don't have any hitches at all. It sounds like a wonderful thing. Doesn't actually exist in UE4, but there is one or two game developers who have spent quite a lot of time backporting that tech from UE5 to UE4. So technically, that could be an option. However, it requires DirectX 12, and at the moment, TSW is not a full DirectX 12 game. It doesn't run as reliably as we'd like in DirectX 12. So so we're technically a DX11 game. So there's a big one chunk of work there to get across that. This PSO thing requires a massive baking progress first. And I guess I'm going to skip down some of these words that I've written because there's too much detail here. But basically, because we update the game on a really regular basis, and in quite substantial ways with new maps and so forth, because of the way that the PSO system works. So the way the PSO system works is it effectively takes the shaders. The shader is what the textures look like, what the colors of the objects on the screen look like. The problem is that if you run at any time during the day, you've got different materials and different shaders. So you've got 24-hour time a day system. If you combine rain, then it looks different. If you combine snow, it looks different. And so you end up with having to not just cache all of the objects, but all of the objects in all of the possible ways they could ever possibly look, or you'll still get a hitch because of a shader compilation thing going on. Yeah, it's a real challenge. Doesn't end up being 100% fixed. You'll still end up probably having to do shader compilation going on. And you'd have to do that across, or we'd have to do that as part of a build process across everything, across all consoles, across all PCs, and yeah, it's a tremendous amount of work to do, and it wouldn't actually necessarily solve the problem. And we're talking about, you all know how much of an upheaval the DLC manager was. This would be of that order of magnitude of problem, essentially. And unlike DLC manager, which did really solve the problem, none of us are convinced this would solve the problem for our particular use case because of the way that Train Sim World works. So I guess the TLDR on this is PSO's great solution, huge amount of work, and not actually a solution for TSW because of the way TSW does things. So we have spent a lot of time looking into variations of doing that to see what we could do, and there would be a hard drive space requirement and a boot time if impact requirement of the senders, but those are generally manageable. Actually, from talking to Alex, that's not really where the issue is. It's the broad complexity of everything, and having all of the your plushies are moving apparently. Yeah, and having all of this different dynamic lighting, and the fact that we update everything on a regular basis, because all of this stuff has to go into the core game. So all of the materials that we talk about, so the textures, all the textures for all of the game in all of the routes would have to move into the core. So suddenly, instead of having a core game of X gigabytes, you'd have a core game of X 100 gigabytes, whether you own the DLC for it or not, which is also bad. So it's yeah, not good. It's not good at all. So that's why we haven't done it. It's not because we are lazy or didn't look at it. We've actually spent quite a lot of time looking at it and variations of it, and we can't make it work in a sensible way.
Well, that was a digest. But I mean, as you said, it's the TLDR is this is to do with the hitching, the micro stutters you see along the route, and it's something like when it comes to pre-caching or kind of like something you can do before you start the game properly to help reduce that. We've looked
Yes,
into
and not all hitches are because of this either. Some, effectively, it's once you've run the route once, by our estimations, well, by our tests, about 80% of the hitching goes away, because of they naturally the shaders get compiled on your local system, and then the hitches that you're left with are the ones as you travel down the world and Unreal loads and unloads assets and so forth. And there's not a lot you can do about that. That's not what PSO would fix. So PSO is not a fix-all for all hitching. But if it worked, then it would resolve that first time experience, which is really important actually. Having all that hitching the first time you load a route that you're really, really looking forward to is really unpleasant, which is why we spent quite a lot, a few months even looking into it. But no, it didn't go anywhere productive. So I'm afraid that didn't help.
I mean, well, what we're seeing in the chat there is, beautifully explained, very detailed, but also no idea what any of that meant. But I loved hearing about it. So, I mean, to some people it's really useful. But again, I appreciate your
answer to the question. It's a complex thing that someone mentioned on the forums, and rather than just ignore it or give you a nah, doesn't work, I thought I'd just give you a little bit more detail into it. If it doesn't make any sense to you, then just take the nah, doesn't work bit. Otherwise than that, hopefully it was something useful.
Maybe we can follow up. If there's more to the conversation, we can follow up on the forum threads as well, because I know, Matt, you're actively in the forums most of the time anyway. I can't believe, join that as well. I got pranked to looking at my plushies. But there was a question that just flew by that I thought I'd quickly answer because it was on my sheets, and it was guard mode on the 323. Now this is from our team and the community team, and I know the development team. We've had this on a couple patch notes now as hey, we fixed it, and then when it turns out it wasn't something that we were able to fix, and it's not quite as simple as well, have we checked the patch notes, should it have been there or not? It's because and as Matt you've mentioned to me as well, is that it actually works on some of our development builds, and the guard mode actually works as intended. So there's something kind of lost in translation when we've been trying to get it to the shipping builds that we're trying to understand.
Yeah, this one's baffling us. So we are narrowing it down slowly, and we'll get there. We do have a fix coming for the 390 not appearing with tickets in there. So where on the West Coast Main Line, the 390 doesn't show up with tickets, but you can start the guard mode from the train on foot. We have got a fix for that coming. We've worked out what the problem is there. It's not coming immediately, but we have figured out what the problem is there, so we've got something going in for that, and we think that's related to what's going on with Birmingham Cross City as well.
I've got another question, at least from our thread, and then we'll look at some more of the ones that are coming in the chat as well. There's no more updates on the LNWR licensing as of yet, and I think as unfortunate as it is, it's best to assume that when we have to remove licenses, it's easier to assume that that is now gone, rather than a question of when it will come back. Again, we've mentioned briefly that licensing is this insane complex loophole, and it really is, and there's a lot of kind of balancing on both sides that needs to happen. But yeah, no news sadly on LNWR bits, unfortunately, and again, best to assume that this is how it will be for now. Couple mentions of PlayStation 5 Pro as well. There's no plans we have to do anything related to the PlayStation 5 Pro. And then that's at least some of the ones on my list. There was one more. Is there any more functionality planned with the TMS screen on the 390? And there's nothing planned at the moment.
Nope.
And that's everything on my list, at least for now. So we'll look at the chat for a few more minutes, answer some questions, and then we'll probably wrap it up as well.
Mikey, I'm not sure what you're asking for because it's muted your, censored your, whatever the key word was on that sentence.
I'm trying to think.
Galen, you've asked a lot about whether they are 8-car 350 services. I don't know off the top of my head. I believe that is then one of the things that's been rectified there, but I will find out for you.
Sam, where do suggestions go on the form? So yeah, we have the suggestions area on our Dovetail forms where you can suggest different routes and different lengths. You can put as much or as little detail as you like. I guess the real answer to that is they go into the minds of the people that read the forms. So I won't cover it all entirely again here, but we have something called a lamp oil process, and that's basically a multi-stage kind of gated process where we kind of check off one thing to the next, and it starts with stuff like licensing. It starts with things that are, I don't think the word is scope, but essentially like, you know, if the suggestion is, can we do a 500-mile route? The answer will probably be no, because it's too big and the scope is too much for the quality that we want to achieve with the route. So that's a clear way of kind of denying a proposal. But suddenly if someone suggested, okay, a 20-mile route, okay, brilliant, but it involves a ton of insane licenses that we currently don't have, that would require us to either open conversations that we're not ready to or that we can't. And so that's another way, a reason why maybe a suggestion would get turned down. There is no bad suggestions, but we've also got to look at community appeal. You know, are we making a section of line that maybe only a few people, I say a handful of our audience, percentage-wise, would enjoy, or is this a route suggestion that is like loved by 80% of our audience? There are many things that we need to consider with suggestions. Every suggestion's good. What I would say is, if you're going to submit something to our forms, try and provide as much detail as you can, and try and keep it relatively scoped to something that already exists. You know, again, don't go excessive with the miles. I know we've got the Just Trains route that's 100 miles long for a UK route, which is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. But find a route and maybe just find a similar length, a similar scope, one or two really key appealing things that you think stand out. And our teams will look through these forms. They will see that inspiration. And when it comes to suggesting routes for the future, well, it's in their minds, it's in their inspiration. They'll either look back to the forms or they'll be like, yeah, you know, I remember one thing that I saw on the forms that was actually really interesting. And maybe it's a good idea, or maybe it's the start of a good idea that they can build on. So ultimately, minds goes into people's brains, goes into people's hearts. But we do see them. And again, I've just seen your follow-up. Do third parties see the forms? I'm sure they do. But I think there's also a certain element where a lot of our third parties have their own aspirations for routes. They have their own goals and desires for what they want in Trains and World and what they want to bring to players. Again, they'll follow a very similar process, and I believe we even take them through that process from our side as well when we work with them. But yes, I would say do third party. We have many third parties active in our forums. But I don't know if I can necessarily say, yes, all third parties are required to read our forms at all times. That's not necessarily true.
So I just had a feedback from the beta team, and they're saying they think that most of the services in the new timetable are 8 and 12 car now, with only a few being 4 car. So we'll confirm that nearer the time, but that seems to be the case.
I'm not going to answer the dinner question. As much as I appreciate it, Mega Simulation Gamer. Have we considered implementing mod.io for console modding support? At least
I have no idea what mod.io is. Send me a DM with details so I can have a look at it. But suffice to say no, because I've never heard of it.
SM Rails, I've seen your comment about some locations on Boston for you're experiencing a bit of low FPS. Feel free to add it to our feedback thread. We've got a thread on the forums for feedback. Let us know. Include the Xbox Series S as your platform on there. And
also, can you note whether or not you're using 4K or HD quality? Because the Xbox has the Series S has the option to go 4K, but technically it's not a 4K console. So you may find running it in HD gives you the frame rate back that would be more suitable to run at.
Train Sim Driver, yes. Some of the third parties also have their own forums and their own Facebook groups. We have a really thriving community. It's really wonderful. There are many areas you can get involved in. I think some of the most active can be either our forums, but also there are a lot of Facebook groups, especially Discord communities as well. So if you're not involved in these spaces, be sure to join the Discords. Be sure to find the Facebook groups. It won't be hard to find them, but you can also join some of our official ones as well with the forums. Adam Cressy, do you get anything for doing the Mastery monthly challenges apart from the badge? So you got the first 2 badges. That's brilliant because this is really the kind of start of something that we wanted to get in process. For now, the badges are the only thing that we're offering as a reward. And I say for now, there are aspirations. I won't necessarily announce what those are because for now it is just going to be those badges. But those monthly masteries we want as a way for you to have something to, obviously aside from the existing masteries you get with roots and with add-ons, we want a regular recurring sense, repeating challenge that you can come back to. And these are independent of community challenges that come up every so often as well anyway. But it's just another thing on top of that. And right now, these are just the badges that you can put in your livery designer. But hopefully, over time, you can grow your collection and you can have 12 badges for 2024. And maybe when we do 2025, there'll be more badges to collect. And you kind of flex some of that experience you've had with the game and some of the collection you've had building up your badge collection. And maybe there'll be more ways you can show that in future. But for now, it's just badges. I'm seeing a lot of things that we can't talk about because we either don't talk about unannounced content or we can't. Mr. Trainman, maybe there would be a route. We have announced the Cardiff City network, but don't believe that's more around Cardiff City rather than anywhere further down. Okay, I think what I'll say is everyone else that's got questions you want us to ask, we've got the roadmap Q&A thread. I will link that in the chats. And feel free to put your answer on there. I will swoop back in tomorrow morning and then I'll share any questions through to myself or to Matt or to the relevant teams at Dovetail and we'll get you an answer before the end of tomorrow as well. Where am I going? General discussion. There we are. So any more questions, please add them to the thread and we'll get to them tomorrow. But that's pretty much it for the roadmap stream. It has been a night of explaining very technical things. It's been a night of announcing very new, exciting things. It's been a night of talking about the fun that we're going to have in December. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it. And Matt, have you had a good night?
It's been brilliant. Yes, thank you, Alex. Especially the highlight for me is as your class are. I think every time I see it just humbles.
Getting the paint chat out. I mean, well, we got it.
I mean, I'm literally true. If I'd done that, so you wrote on the top there, and it's readable.
It's just about. What I'll say is,
if I'd written on the top there, I would have probably gotten as far as dub and just done a squiggled line and just got given up with it because I hate writing with my mouse.
what I'll say, December is going to be really fun. But that
it is. I know some of what you got planned to talk about, and I can't wait. Actually, I think it's going to be absolutely tremendous fun.
It's annoying because we have so much we want to talk about, but we can't. And there's more and more things we're announcing, but more and more things we can't say. But you will find out very soon. a few weeks, I promise. And then every day will be really fun. There's a grand surprise at the end, which will be brilliant. And also that asset, I was going to say, that asset will be done wonderfully by Vic from our creative team. So she's got some awesome stuff to show you. But that's it for tonight. We've talked enough. We've answered your questions. But if you have any more, add them to our thread as linked above. And that is it for roadmaps wise for this year. I know it sounds crazy already. November still hasn't ended, but we'll be back in December. That's all I'll say. So we'll see you then. And for now, have a wonderful night. Goodbye, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.